Takes it, bounces around, they score. Philp bubbles on the board.
So we're joined by WHL alumni Luke Philp, prospect to the Calgary Flames here today. He's with us to talk a little bit about his Western Hockey League experience and some memories from his WHL Bantam Draft year. Luke, appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, you and I were talking offline a little bit before, and we're looking back, and it's been 10 years since you were a part of the WHL Bantam Draft class. How does it make you feel knowing now that it was 10 years back that you first heard your name called?
Old, I'd say. It's definitely, I didn't think it was that long, but you just reminded me before we started this year. So that's kind of sinking in a little bit here, but I can still remember the day like it was yesterday. So lots of good memories with that.
The Bantam Draft itself and the whole process of teams calling out players' names, that's one day, but there's a lot that leads up to that single day. So when you look back 10 years, what do you remember about the season that you had as a Bantam player and the whole process that sort of led you to, your WHL Bantam Draft?
Second year Bantam, everybody knows about the Bantam Draft. So you want to do your best as a player. For me, I played on the Airdrie Extreme in the AMHL. Lots of fun, play with lots of guys that I still keep in touch with today. So, and it's an exciting time to be drafted. And in saying that, some people don't end up being drafted, but it's definitely not the end of the world. There's lots of players who were never drafted in the Bantam Draft and end up having great WHL careers, and some move on to the NHL. So,
that year in 2010, you were selected in the third round. You go on, you have a great Western League career. You play over 300 games. Obviously, that's a big chunk of someone's life, whether you're playing 4 or 5 years in the Western Hockey League. You look back on that whole experience, how do you remember it, or what stands out to you about everything you experienced during your time in the Western League?
It definitely goes fast for sure. And then the friendships you make playing with those guys, from 16 to 20, those are friendships that last a lifetime. It's a lot of fun to play in some of those buildings. I can remember the Saddle Dome. Remember playing in some of those buildings in the States, in front of tons of fans, and then in Cranbrook there too. So yeah, it kind of gives you a taste of what the pro life is going to be like. It's a busy schedule. It kind of makes you grow up in a hurry, especially being 16. You got to manage, if you play at 16 or 17, you got to manage life in high school and, your schoolwork as well as playing a 72 game schedule. So yeah, a lot of growing up to do when you're young like that. But I had nothing but great experiences through the Western League.
You touch on a lot of really interesting things, particularly the whole life balance. What kind of advice would you have for a young kid who's about to come through the WHL Bantam Draft and, get ready to take that next step and enter what is really probably a whole new world for him?
I guess it teaches you time management. As far as advice goes, I'd say don't miss school. Don't think you can skip school. The teams will find out somehow. It's great, actually, the experience. It makes you learn how to deal with going to school a full day and also having a game that night and stuff like that. So I think those are very valuable lessons to learn as a young kid. And that's what I can say that.
The academic side of things is obviously an important part of it all. You, after your time in the Western Hockey League, you go to the University of Alberta, you make use of your WHL scholarship. You look back at everything that went into the decision you made there to utilize your WHL scholarship. What all factored into that and how important was that decision for you?
Yeah, it's a tough decision to make. For me personally, I was on kind of the cusp of, which a lot of, I feel like 20-year-olds who have played in the Western League are, you're kind of deciding, okay, do I use my scholarship money? Do I go to or try my odds in pro? And I think for me, it just wasn't the time for pro. I went to San Jose's camp after my 20-year-old year, but I ended up deciding to go play at the University of Alberta, and that was a great decision for me at the time. And things worked out. I continued to improve as a player while I was at the U of A, and eventually earned a contract with the Flames a year ago. So I think for mainly those 20-year-old guys who are kind of weighing their options on that decision, it's not the end of your hockey career if you decide to go to school and play in Canadian university. You can still earn lots of pro opportunities out of that.
What do you remember about the WHL scholarship when you were a player? Do you remember much about it, or was that something that you sort of started thinking about a little bit more in your 20-year-old year? And knowing what you've been through now, how helpful was it having that scholarship at your disposal?
Yeah, the scholarship is huge. Not only financially, but it kind of allows you to start thinking about the academic side of things when you're playing junior hockey, because I know lots of people definitely have in their mindset, oh, I'm going to keep playing, I'm going to play pro, I'm going to potentially make it to the NHL, which, those dreams are great, but it's also great to have that availability to be able to go to school. So I think if you talk to any WHLer who's used their scholarship, they would have nothing but good things to say about it. And like I said, with hockey wise too, you can still improve as a player and give yourself an opportunity to play pro, all the while getting a degree. So it's the best of both worlds.
As far as my opinion goes, for whatever that's worth, I think Canada West is still, the Canada West men's hockey program is still a little bit of a well-kept secret, I suppose. I don't know that a lot of people out there realize how good the hockey is in Canada West. You talked about how much of an impact that had on you and your, the opportunity it presented to help you further your skill development as a player. What was it like playing Canada West hockey, and just how impactful was that on your development?
Yeah, it's huge. It's a competitive league. Like you look at I like to use the U of A as an example because I played there, and it's they have such a long-standing winning tradition there. But I think there's a number of players right now who have had 90 to 100 point seasons in the WHL. So, like you said, it can be thought of as a little bit of a secret because, the rinks you play in aren't as big anymore as they were when you were in the Western League and stuff like that. But bottom line is, as a player, if you're still improving and you're still good enough, teams will find you and teams will still find a way to come watch you. So I think the league has been improving ever since I was first in it 3-4 years ago. And you look now, it's still very competitive, and there's tons of good players in the league.
You play 3 years at the University of Alberta, and that amounts to an entry-level contract with the Calgary Flames. You grew up just down the highway in Canmore. For starters, I guess, how exciting was it for you to have that opportunity presented by the Calgary Flames, a team that's, just down the road from where you grew up?
Yeah, it was a dream come true growing up watching the Flames. Still remember the cup run they went on in 2004, and the city really came alive when that happened. So for me, I was thrilled for it to be my hometown team, and it's been awesome ever since.
You've spent your first year, at least up until the pause in the season, I suppose, with the Flames American League affiliate in Stockton. What's that experience been like for you, and how has the transition gone from playing Canadian university hockey to playing professionally?
Yeah, it's a step up for sure. the American League's a really tough league. It's really competitive. It's hard to get any to score in that league, and it's really tight checking. So it was an adjustment for myself, but I think I had a little bit of a slow start, but was able to kind of find my game and start contributing both offensively and in other areas. So very competitive league, and it was a good first year for me.
You look back to the time you spent in the Western Hockey League. What kind of lessons did you learn during those days that you've been able to apply that have helped you with that transition, or helped you to find success professionally here now?
Yeah, you definitely learn how to manage, your body and stuff. I mean, it's a little different now that you're older and you don't have to deal with school while you're playing professionally. But through the Western League, you definitely learn, how to manage, yourself, your body during those tough stretches of 3 games in 3 nights or 4 games in 5 nights. So that's all very relevant when it comes to pro hockey. And I think as far as travel goes too, you learn how to deal with those kind of things, like what you need personally. Everybody's different after a bus trip or a plane ride, so to speak. So you kind of learn more about yourself and what you need to take care of yourself and get ready to play.
Now, from a skill development standpoint and a gameplay standpoint, obviously, Major Junior is very different from professional hockey, whether we're talking at the American League level or the National League level. But all that being said, there's a development process the whole way through. How would you say the experiences you had in the Western League helped with your hockey development and allowed you to continue progressing?
Yeah, it's huge because you're playing at the highest level you can be, right? So from the time you're 16 to 20, you're playing against the best players possible across the country and in the world. So the practice habits, the coaching, the games, the atmospheres you play in and stuff like that, that all gears you for pro hockey. And I think it's definitely the best thing you can do to prepare yourself.
We're looking ahead to the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft. It's on April 22nd here coming up. If you had the opportunity to provide one message or one piece of advice to those kids who are looking ahead to their WHL Bantam Draft, what would you say to them?
I'd say enjoy it. It's an exciting time in your life, the first time you get drafted, but don't think too much about it. Don't think it's the end of the world if you don't go as high as you thought you might go, or if you don't get drafted at all for that matter. Don't think it's the end of the road hockey wise. There's lots of people who haven't got drafted and ended up having great WHL careers. So just stick with it, and best of luck to everybody.
Perfect. Well, Luke, we appreciate you taking the time to do this, and obviously stay safe during the current times we find ourselves in, and best of luck with everything down the road.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.